everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Taking Stock. We have turned the microphone on this time, so that's a good start. So we are here with Simon and Chris, and we're going to talk about all things Red HSTs this morning because you guys have told us that's what you're interested in, and that's what's coming through very shortly as part of our fleet cascade. So I suppose the first thing that we need to talk about is the why, the background. So maybe Chris, you could talk a little bit about that for us.
Yeah. So we're changing our HST fleet mainly to do with the PRM legislation that came in on the 1st of January 2020. So when we came into this franchise, you might remember there was still sort of an indecision over what the solution was going to be to the HSTs. Ultimately, that decision, working with the Department for Transport, instructed us to take the LNER HSTs because they have a level of compliance which is more than our own HSTs, particularly around having a universal access toilet and one or two other areas, more compliant seating for with more space. And the other thing they've had fitted is a new PIS system, so that's why we're taking them, because they are an enhancement over and above our current HSTs. But it's not an easy project at all.
What's the PIS system?
Passenger information system.
And how will that look? Will that be the overheads with the scrolling text?
So no, I think so introducing Simon. We ought to do an introduction to Simon, haven't we?
Hello, Simon. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Simon?
Yeah, a depot manager at Neville Hill, been there now for just nearly 2.5 years.
And you're living all things Red HSTs at the moment?
Yes, I am.
Among other things. Okay, so in terms of the passenger information system, how are those going to look?
There'll be screens at the end of carriage, so that will give the information of destinations, time of arrival, etc. Any service update information will be there in each carriage.
Great.
So it's the Keytech system.
Yes.
Yeah. So a little bit different to what we've got on our other fleets, because it's not the sort of LCD screen or even dot matrix type screen that I've heard them refer to. This looks more like a little TV.
Effectively, it's television. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is great because it actually gives you scope for doing more interesting things with giving information. So you can use them to give information on other delays, and I've seen them on LNER with the little bit of BBC News and things like that on them. So
they're looking good.
Yes.
So while the Red HSTs are more PRM compliant than our current HST stock, they're still not 100% PRM compliant. Is that correct? And therefore, they're not going to be here for forever.
Yeah. So there's a number of I guess fundamental issues with compliance for both our current HSTs and the Red HSTs. The main one is probably around the doors, and that's the bit that costs a lot of money and takes a long time to resolve. So there was no way we would be able to do a modification like that in the time frame between the start of the franchise and the 1st of January. Mm-hmm. And ultimately we have a solution to have all of the mainline fleet compliant by the start of 2021. So no, the HSTs will run during 2020 and then come to an end at the end of this year.
Okay, fab. And in terms of the benefits for customers, what can people expect to see or feel or experience on the Red HSTs? Is it an improved stock to our current HST stock?
There's more seating available for the same diagram, so we'll be able to transport more passengers, which is an enhancement. We'll have the PIS system in place, which we don't have today. There'll be the universal access toilets available for our PRM passengers, and we're still bringing them as 2+8, so that we're running the same formation as we do now, but there'll be physically more capacity.
Better I think probably better quality seating throughout as well.
Okay.
There'll be a huge amount of debate over whether better quality seating now. I know that's the case because
they certainly look different.
Yeah, but they are newer seats. First class is all the leather seats in bigger. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So where are these units now? Are they with you over at Neville Hill, or what's going to happen to them?
Two of them are with me at Neville Hill. So I've got NL 51 and NL 56, and they're the first two rakes that will go into service. And the rest are sitting at Gascoigne Wood, very close to the depot, and as and when we finished work on those two rakes that we've got, we'll take our two HSTs out of service, bring some more in from Gascoigne Wood, and just keep the process going like that.
Okay, so when are we thinking we're going to get the first red ones into service? Is it March time?
First red ones in service will be in the next 3 weeks.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Not long.
Not long at all. So for staff that are going to work on the units, how are we going to kind of share what that looks like with them? What's the plan of action?
Well, we've had some of the onboard team come to Neville Hill to actually do a walkthrough and a familiarisation themselves, so they can get a briefing together for the onboard teams. I believe, I'm not part of this, but I believe there's a video going to be produced that's going to be shared with the functions as well.
I can share some information about that. So our external comms team in the next few weeks have got a video agency coming in. Actually, it must be sooner than that because they're coming into service very soon. So in the next week or so, we're going to go and get a video of what it looks like, and we'll share that with you guys so you've got a bit of an idea as well. And I know that Dave Meredith and his team have produced a handbook, so if you haven't seen that yet and you want a copy of that, just get in touch with the internal comms team and we can share that with you.
Good.
Okay guys, so shall we talk about the inside and the outside design? So I suppose the outside design, in terms of a paint job, what is it going to look like? Is it remaining red?
Yeah, well, I think the clue's in the name, isn't it?
The Red HSTs.
Red HST.
Yeah, I think being as we're only going to have them in service for sort of 8 to 10 months, depending on when each of the sets comes in, there really isn't a lot of time or ability to spend lots of time applying our new livery, and we wouldn't get that return on that investment in any case. So they are having EMR on the side. I've seen the power cars.
The power cars that we've got at depot have been rebranded EMR, so that's the only change I'm aware of.
So we've got the power cars with that. We are going to try and do one HST set into our full aubergine in the interim livery, so that won't be one of the first ones, but it'll probably be one of them towards the back end that we'll do in an interim livery, and the designs for that are being done at the moment.
Excellent. So is that confirmed? Is that definitely going ahead?
Yes, yeah.
Good, because I might have told people on social media, so I'm glad it is.
It's got to happen then, there we go. Yes.
Force the issue there, don't we? Excellent. And then, so we're going to run them, so it's going to be great, we're going to run them for the best part of a year, and then towards the end of the year, we're cascading out, that's correct, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Fine. And then what will the Red HSTs be replaced with?
So, ultimately they get replaced with, it's not a direct replacement at the end of this year, but they get replaced through a combination of the Class 360s, the Class 180s, and how the Meridians are utilised. But it's all really tied into with the December 2020 timetable change. So, and this is really oversimplifying things, but it helps in my mind how to think about it. But at the minute we run 5 diagrams an hour out of St Pancras. 4 of those are ran with Meridians, 1 with HSTs. So from deck 20, 4 of those are still ran with Meridians and 180s, and 2 of those are ran with 360s. Now I know there'll be lots of people in our planning teams and people in projects teams going, "No, Chris, that's not quite how it works." And there is a whole load of detail I know beneath that I've really oversimplified it. But I think just to help a lot of people explain how the balance of rolling stock works, that's probably a really neat way of sort of explaining why the numbers work the way they do.
Okay, brilliant. So in terms of what your team are working on, Simon,
Yep.
the maintenance and the repair works that are happening at the moment
Yep.
to get it into a shape that we're happy with for it to go into service, how is it working with stock and with spares? Are we going to be set up and ready to kind of, how does it work?
There are some plans in place. So at the moment we're doing what's called an X exam or X plus exam on the power cars and the trailer cars, and uniquely for us we're doing two at a time. So we're doing an X exam on our own legacy stock or current stock. At the same time, next to that, we're doing an X exam on the new stock. As you rightly mentioned, parts and spares is an issue, but there are quite a number of surplus spares up at Craig and Tinney who now no longer run HSTs, and there are plans in place to actually get those components down to Neville Hill. To form additional stock at a reduced rate for our own coaching stock, and B, to provide some spares for the project work we're going to do on the Red HSTs as well. So that's going on. At the same time, we are going through a safety validation because we have to do that to introduce new rolling stock onto the main line, and we're doing the engineering change process that has to happen as well. So there's a lot going on all in parallel, and it's like juggling lots and lots of balls in the air at the same time.
I think just an update on where we are with some of the other rolling stock would be good. So not a lot has actually changed in the last week, only a little bit on the Class 156 Cascade. So we talked last week about saying we should have 8 of the 9, so we do now have 8 of the 9. I think we now have 5 in service, so that's good. The 9th one, which is 156417, off the top of my head. I just my head's full of unit numbers. 417 is due to join us this week, and actually 417 is one of the units that we've previously had at Etches Park and done some work, so we're hopeful of getting that into service really quickly once it joins us. Other things that we're looking to do, we need to free up a bit of space at Etches Park. We're very conscious Etches Park's becoming very, very busy and very crowded, so there might be some people listening to this who particularly work in and around that environment at night, absolutely hear the concerns that it's getting a bit congested. So we are looking at how we can get at least one of the Class 180s out of Etches Park, because at the moment we don't need both of them there. We are going to transfer one of them to Red Hill just to put as an extra bit of stabling for us. And then the incoming final 2 Class 180s, we had a request last week from Hull Trains. They'd like to hold on to 2 of them for a little bit longer, for a couple of weeks into February. So that works for us, so we're fairly happy with that. We've just got to go through the formalities of getting that all agreed with all the parties involved.
Does that, in terms of it working for us, is it just because we're congested and we actually could do with the space?
Yeah, so at the moment we are putting the contracts in place and training the staff and getting all of that side together to be able to maintain and just to be able to drive the units. So I think we did have a Class 180 moving around the depot last week, which sounds really minor, but actually is quite a milestone in terms of just ticking things off. So we had that happening last week. So having 4 of them on Etches Park at the moment wouldn't be particularly helpful. And I think speaking to the operations team, they're looking at using a couple of them for driver training when we get to that point. So I'm sure we're going to have a focus on 180s at some point in the next few weeks, aren't we? And maybe a bit more detail about the training plan and things.
Yeah, that'd be useful.
And I'd like to add to that, Chris, I mean, obviously Neville Hill's full as well, that's why we're only doing 2 units at a time. And in fact we're looking to use Red Hill ourselves for some activity, be it for stabling or even for using it as a location to do underframe cleaning. And the sets as well as part of the maintenance and upgrade. So I think Red Hill is going to be quite a key location for us in this cascade.
It's a really big topic actually throughout the next 2 or 3 years. Is just the space on depots for undertaking all this rolling stock change. So it's never the case that you just take one fleet and it stops running on a Sunday night, and on a Monday morning a new fleet turns up to replace it. So often you have to have more rolling stock in the fleet during those points of transition than you would do during steady state. And actually we've got something we call the train bow. We can issue the train bow, which is it shows the change in the number of vehicles that we have as part of the fleet. And you see as we go through this year, it really starts to peak and becomes many more than we had at the start of the franchise. But of course you have to find space to stable that. And it's not just us. So I know at Neville Hill, for example, Northern are going through introducing their new fleet, which means they are having the same issues as well and trying to find additional space. So particularly around Etches Park and Northern, we're really conscious that we have lots of rolling stock and not a lot of track to put it on, and we're having to think
not enough track,
ingenious ways of places to put it.
Can I ask a stupid question? What happens to our stock when it's finished, when it comes to the end of its life? Is it going to go on to, the HSTs are coming to the end of their life?
The first HST that left me was NL65, and that's quite a history in passenger service, as we know. That ended down at Sims in Newport, and it's being scrapped.
Is it?
Yeah. It's brutal, isn't it?
It is brutal.
It is, yeah.
Do you know, we've had a lot of conversation on our social media channels from people saying what's going to happen to them when they're kind of gone, because there's such fondness for them that I think it's going to be quite sad.
I think some will be kept on by various societies, but I think the majority would simply go and be scrapped.
Yeah.
Well, end of an era.
Unless anybody wants to buy them, in which case Waterbrook I know are willing to sell them.
Yeah, we could lay some track to Prospect House and fire him off. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. And I suppose while we've got you here, Simon, do you want to talk a little bit about Neville Hill generally? So kind of give us a bit of a flavour about what happens up there. So how many staff you've got working?
Yeah, well, we've got best part of 230 staff working 24/7 as all the other depots do. Significant cleaning team in the 60s who do an excellent job.
Just for clarity, they're not in the 60s.
No, some of them are.
Yes.
Some of them are. The majority are not. So we have a very, very well motivated cleaning team. We've got 5 shifts on the production team that work through doing the maintenance, heavy maintenance and routine maintenance overnight on. We do a zoomer, they attach your zoomer stock. We're doing the Mark IV electric stock for LNER. We do HST servicing for cross country, 1 or 2 sets a night depending on how they're diagrammed, and obviously we do our own HSTs. In addition to that, we're doing some C4 work for the Angel HSTs. There've been some modifications we're doing on Mark III coaches for Greater Anglia. So it's a moving feast. The core work is pretty heavy, and then we add to that as and when opportunities arise.
So not very busy then?
Not very busy at all.
No, just kicking back.
Yeah, you guys are really busy at the moment, aren't you?
Well, on top of the fact that, as Chris mentioned, Northern are there. Northern are going through a peak, and if you see the depot in the daytime, if you're a visitor, you'll see lots of track and think, what's the issue? Go and see the place at night, and you'll be amazed at how on earth it operates at all. Be that from a Northern perspective or from an EMR perspective. I think the guys overnight do a phenomenal job. And I think we just take them for granted, and we shouldn't, because they really do an exceptional job.
I've seen your big diagram, and everything's got a little code that moves around. It's bonkers. I don't know how you do it, but good work, isn't it? All right, brilliant. So I think that's us for this week, isn't it? Yeah. So what are we talking about next week?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I'm having a week off.
Oh, Chris is having a week off.
I'm having a long weekend.
It's whatever you want to be.
Yeah. Me and Simon will be talking about... We'll do movie reviews next week and maybe a bit of a history chat if you fancy joining us for that. So we're going to take the week off, and then we'll be back the following week with another episode, and we'll let you know in advance what we're going to be talking about. But as always, if you have any questions...
Did we have any questions?
No, do you know what though? We never have any questions, but we do always have good conversation. So people have been spotting the Red HSTs at Neville Hill, which has been quite nice.
Can I answer some questions that people
have
asked me? But
I'm going to have to come up with a different theme tune though for your Q&A session.
No, I'm just 2 bits that people have asked about. Yep. Firstly, the new biomodes are not Class 804s. We will be saying what they are shortly. And also around another question on the biomodes. They've not got more than 1 engine under a single vehicle, so there seemed to be... Somebody was asking me about how are you fitting 2 engines under a single vehicle. I said, well, we're not. There's 4 engines, and there's 4 of the vehicles have a single engine, and one of them has a transformer and pantograph.
Okay. So thanks for clearing that up.
That's okay.
Excellent. All right then. Well, thank you very much both, and thank you for your time, and let's hope this recorded, and we'll be sending this out this afternoon.
Thank
you very much.
Thanks, Amelia.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.